Hello and welcome to another video. In this one we're continuing the short series on battle maps, and in this one we're going to be looking at how you draw line of sight occluders onto a map. So we'll need a map, and this is the one that we imported in the last video from Photoshop. So if we unlock this map, then we have access to the line of sight. Here we can click on this, and this brings up our line of sight tools menu. Up at the top here we've got our selection tool, which selects points. We can use this to select points so that we can edit. We then have the line tool, the square or rectangle tool, and the ellipse tool, and these respectively draw lines, rectangles and ellipses. So that's the tools that we can use, and underneath that we've got the types of occluders that we can draw using these tools. The first one is walls. Walls block line of sight, and they also block a token's movement, so tokens can't move through walls. So they're they're solid. Players can't move through them, players can't see through them. We've got the terrain tool, which we would use to draw in something like trees, for example. And the terrain tool does block line of sight, but does not block movement. So tokens can move through terrain, and they will be able to see depending on where they are in relation to the terrain, and it'll block their line of sight, again, depending on the relationship they have with the terrain. Doors, as the name suggests, draws in doors. Doors will obviously block line of sight and movement if the door is closed. They will clearly allow movement and line of sight if the door is open. Doors can also be locked or unlocked. We have toggleable walls, basically secret doors. Toggleable walls act in all respects like a wall, in that they block movement and they block line of sight, but the Dungeon Master has the option to toggle the wall on or off, and when the wall is toggled off, then the players can then see through the door and move through it, or the wall, I should say. So that's essentially secret doors. It's the most common use for toggleable walls. Windows, as their name suggests, you can see through windows. They may or may not block movement, depending on how they're set up, but they are something that you can see through and may or may not block movement. Illusionary walls are very similar to walls in that they block movement, they block line of sight, but you can move the token straight through them. So they are an illusion. You can't see through them, but the tokens can move straight through illusionary walls. Then we have pits. Pits can block movement. They can also block line of sight. They can be toggled on or off, and they can also not block movement. So there's a few things, and we'll cover pits later in another video. And then we've got shadow casters, which essentially cast a shadow given a particular light source. So they're more for a lighting occluder than they are for anything else. They don't block movement or line of sight. They just block, or they cast a shadow where appropriate. We've got some other things here. We've got an options line, and depending on which of these you select as to which of the options appear, and so we'll cover all of that in a later video. And then you've got some actions here which we'll cover later on once we started to draw some points. And then under here we've got a grid snap tool, or a toggle, a point snap toggle, and a peak, and we'll explain all of that later in the video. Now the first thing I want to point out is that it's very important that you draw your occluders in the correct layer. We've got two layers in this map here. One is a DM layer, and this is not shared with players. This is a GM only layer. So if we start drawing occluders on this layer, they're going to be hidden from the players, and the occluders just aren't going to work, because if the players, if they are not on the map, then the players can't see them, and therefore they're not going to do what you're thinking they're going to do. So it's very important that in this case we only draw our occluders on this layer here. We can, if you wanted to, create another layer for the occluders, but there's no real reason to. It's better to put them onto the main layer. So in order to prevent us from drawing on this layer, we're going to lock it. So if we lock the DM layer, then we can't do anything with that. The program just won't allow us to edit that layer in any way, and editing would include adding occluders to that layer. So that's us safe. We can't do anything with that layer. We can only draw on this layer here. Right, so let's zoom in a little bit into this area of the map here. We're going to select our line tool and our wall tool, and we're just going to draw some occluders around this area here. So we just click our mouse button where we want our first point, and as you can see, we now have a red line attached to our mouse pointer. We just move that to where we want our next line to be, or our next point. Click, and then click again, and then click again. When we're done with the last point, we can just double click, and that will finish the line. If we zoom in there, we can actually see we've got a little tiny line there because we didn't really just click it properly, but we'll sort that out later. So that's as simple as it gets, really. That's a line occluder. Now we haven't drawn this really terribly straight. You can see that this is a little bit off. We could go to our edit tool here, and we can grab this point, select this point. We can move it around and try and straighten it up a bit if we wanted to. And we could do the same with this one. But a much better method is to draw the lines straight in the first place. I think you'll agree. So if we double click on one of the points on this lines that we've drawn, you see that it's selected all the lines. We have now lit up some of these tools, and we can go to here and delete selected points, and that'll just take everything that we have drawn away. If that was a mistake, we can get it back by Control Z, and it'll bring everything back. If we were to just select this one point here, so we haven't double clicked, we just select this one point, we can then either remove selected points, which is this one here. So if we remove that, what it does is it removes that one point and keeps all the other points, and then draws a line between the two bracketing points, the two points that came before and after that point. If we Control Z to get it back, and just select that point again and then delete that point, what it does is it deletes all the points that are immediately before and after it. And as you can see, it's left this little one down here because that's an extra line. We didn't select that. So that is a difference between removing a selected point and removing or deleting a selected point. If we go back again, we can use a keyboard. We can delete to remove the points, and we can do the backspace. Sorry, we're going to select it first. So that's backspace to remove and delete to delete. If we wanted to delete the whole thing, then we can just draw around it, and it'll select all the points, and then we can just go to delete selected points, and that'll take everything away. So in order to draw straighter lines, we can select our line tool again, and then this time when we start to draw, we're going to hold down the shift key, and when we do, you can see that the line is now snapping to 45-degree arcs. So that's going to be a straight line right up to there. We click there, and all the time while holding down shift, double click to finish, and we have completed our nice straight lines. So that's one way of doing straight lines. Let's get rid of that. Another way is to add magnetic snap, and this basically snaps the occluder lines to the grid. So again, with our line tool selected, we are going to select our first point, and this time you can see that the pointer is snapping to the midpoint in the grid, midpoint in any of the lines, or the halfway point in any of the lines surrounding the grid, or the grid where the grids cross. So this snaps to the grid. So that can be there, and then there, and then there. Now this works as long as the grid is where you want it to be. If we look at an area up here, if we wanted to draw occluders around this area, if we start here, you can see that this line is going to go beyond the wall, so we don't want that. So we can override the grid snap by holding down Shift. We can then draw this over here. If we release Shift, you can see that again it's not going to be drawing to the point that we want, so we're going to have to hold Shift, make our point, and then we can go back to grid snapping. So there are downsides to the grid snapping. It's absolutely fine as long as everything is exactly lined up with the grid, but if it isn't, then it's more work. Personally, I don't use the grid snapping tool. I don't find it particularly useful, but depending on your map, you might do so. You can use the grid snap to draw it or not. If we take off magnetic snap, and the next one we want to look at is the point snap, and essentially what that means is that the line will try its best to snap to the nearest point. So if we get our line again, and supposing we want to continue the occluder from here, and we want to join this up here, and as you can see, as you get near this point, it's snapping to that point. So we know that occluder is going to definitely be on that point. If we zoom in, we've got a perfectly joined up occluder. If we take that off and we take the magnetic snap off, if we then draw our line again, it's not going to snap to this point. So we've got every chance, if we're not really careful, of finishing our line and it won't be snapped, and therefore there'll be a gap in your occluders and the tokens will be able to see through that. So this is a toggle. If we take that off and we put this on, so you can have that off. Now I believe if you hold down the control key, then that puts the snap on. You can see that quite clearly is snapping when I hold down the control key. So you can go with snap off and just use the control key when you want to snap, or you can just have the snap on all the time. And if you don't want to snap, then the same is true. Since it's a toggle, if you hold down control instead of snapping to the grid, it'll no, actually control does still snap to the grid even if its point snaps on. Interesting. Right. Okay. As you can tell, I always have the point snap on. Okay, so let's select all of these points. We just select them all and we'll delete them. We'll have a quick look at the rectangle tool. Now, as its name suggests, it will simply draw a rectangle, so we just need to start our point where we want it and keep the left mouse button held down and then just drag, and it will draw our rectangle. If we wanted to draw a perfect square, then whilst we draw that, if we hold down the Shift key, then it will draw a perfect square for you. All the sides will be even. We just need to let go of the mouse button and it finishes. And the similar story with the ellipses. You start where you want to start, hold down the left mouse button and drag, and it will draw an ellipse for you. And if you wanted to draw a perfect circle, then hold down the Shift key whilst drawing the circle. Once you've drawn your circle or ellipse or square or whatever, you can still edit in the same way as you can with anything else. You can move these lines about if you wanted to make it weird shapes, whatever you want to do. You can also, if we select that point, we can remove that point and it'll join up. Or if we select this point here and delete it, then it'll just remove that altogether. So all the tools are the same, work similarly, and that's the three main tools that you have for drawing. Okay, I think that's enough for this video, and in the next one we'll have a closer look at some other occluders examples. Well, thanks for watching. Cheers for now.